Hey everyone, just a disclaimer at the top here that today's episode includes some brief discussion of sexual assault, sexual violence, so if that's something that you don't want to hear about, feel free to skip this one. Alright, on to the episode.
Feels like a warring out for my rest. Baby, you got me checking in my rear view mirror.
I was saying off mic that it was work was kind of slow last night. Slow for a Friday. Like if it was a weeknight, it would have felt busy, but for whatever, it's kind of interesting for a weekend. Like you can see the weekends work at this movie theater more and more. So like this weekend that I worked has been slow, but last weekend was one. It was Valentine's Day, but it was also the new Captain America movie. So I got to see like, oh, right, the Marvel movies are a force still. That creates anarchy at the movie theater when a Marvel movie comes out still. But everyone looks really sad now. Like, oh man, it feels like the Marvel MCU has hit like a real zombie state where people are still going to them. Like the diehards are still going to them, but like, you know, that apparently diehards is a huge chunk of people still.
Oh yeah,
but they still are like every time they leave, they'll like come up to the bar and be like, "That was fucking awful."
That's so funny that like it really, I mean, that's the thing that's going to make them worth studying, because it truly is an evolution of the blockbuster. It's like, okay, before it's just like, we need to make a movie that is a blockbuster, and they just threw all this shit at the wall. Like, what's the blockbuster formula? Then Marvel comes along and it's like, okay, it's not about that. It's not about that director shit. It's not about that stupid art shit. It's about logistics and scheduling. And
that's about it.
This is the era of the producer. How do you get the devotion of serialized storytelling that we've been observing on the smaller screen for decades? How do we get that energy into a theater? And you inaugurated an entire new regime of consumer behavior. Know, like it was, the midnight screening had been a phenomenon, but limited to like cult things. And then like, I mean, I didn't really even think of it until the Star Wars prequels came out. The idea that anybody could be so excited for a movie that you're actually camping out, because up to that point, the basic concept of, well, it's new. We don't know if it's going to be good. And it's like, used to be like more who's starring in it. Eventually it became more and more about the IP itself.
Yeah, because I saw The Dark Knight Rises at a midnight showing, because everyone, saw The Dark Knight and they were really excited about, the sequel. Everyone, and, so I remember that hype, it was fun to do that. But
right, yeah. Well, even that, because it's like you couldn't do that with like a new superhero movie, and then Marvel proved you could. If you have this giant thing. But like the only reason that happens with Batman is because people are like, oh, Batman's good again. It had been like 10 years where everybody's like, Batman's kind of horse shit. And then all of a sudden there was something that reminded him, and you got that crazy hype like you did for 89 Batman again, because it was a recognized property. So it was like all of a sudden you're building up this like, oh, what's this new iteration of something that's been around for a while? And I mean, the remake has been around for a while, but very few of it. And then I don't know. Yeah, they just figured out how to, like, if you convince enough people that there's like some sort of ultimate plan, or if you keep this thing going as a coherent aesthetic and logistical enterprise over multiple decades at this point, I can't knock that. That is a human achievement, but it's an incrable business achievement.
The MCU is a human achievement, but it's like the Tower of Babel.
It's
like, at what cost? What are we doing here?
Because like even the best entries just don't compare. Like they just aren't on the level of a Jaws or a Star Wars.
I don't think they are, no.
There's just no single component that stands out on its own, and now they've made an artifact that is unwieldy and diffuse and doesn't make sense. Like, I mean, like there's always going to be nerds devoted to it, but as the giant hype cycle that was inaugurated in 2008 kind of is starting to fade, or be shaken, once it's a completed project, I think it's going to become an object of academic study. I mean,
what happened to culture for 2 decades?
Right. It's there, and there's always going to be Marvel fans, but Marvel itself might go through another fallow and perilous period, even though they've kind of scaled to the heights of American culture.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I think you've hit the peak of
I don't know. I
just don't know. Right. Yeah. I just don't know how it has staying power, because all of it is because there's no individual entry that can be held up as this advanced cinema art. You can only talk about it in this abstract. It's well, they did tell a serialized story at a very high budget and theatrically over 20 years. That's a film studies course. That's not.
Yeah. So I haven't said this on microphone, but I've started to watch through the MCU now, because I feel like I've been an MCU hater for a long time. And but on the other hand, the amount of actual Marvel movies I've sat down and watched all the way through is probably countable on 2 hands at most, 1 hand if I'm maybe being more honest. I've been in the room while they played a lot though, so I've seen it. I've never liked it. But as it seems like we're ending the MCU, right? Like you're saying,
there's just
it feels like now's the time to kind of digest it as a what the fuck just happened to culture. So I'm watching it in this very sociological lens, analyzing it. When it comes to my personal enjoyment, I'm not going to enjoy them. I've never really liked the Marvel movies from the get-go, with a handful of exceptions. But so I've only watched Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk right now. But it's funny, it's funny to go back to those first ones when they're starting to just tease the metaverse, or not meta. Excuse me, when they're trying to just tease the big narrative. These are all going to come together. Where it's the post-credit scenes where it's we're putting together a team. It brought back so many memories too of all the Marvel nerds in my life were they're gonna do it. They were all excited. And at the time I think that was a cool feeling, but it's so funny how not cool that feels now. Going back on it, it's all right, you're gonna bring the guys together.
It's so to promote a much more successful podcast, guys,
with Brian Quimby,
a much more well-known podcast. Let's not make a qualitative judgment here.
Maybe a better podcast than this. Everyone go listen to Guys instead of this.
Just go, turn this off that you paid, $3 to $10 a month for, and but that episode of Marvel Guys, they're going through all these Reddit posts, and it's that they have created a movie fan that hates movies is what they've done. They've created a perfect consumer that actually hates the movies themselves, and it's one of the guys on Guys, it wasn't Brian, was saying it's it's all these guys are super good at cataloging and recognizing things, but they can't synthesize. They can't, because they were going, a lot of the content for that show was basically spec scripts, or what the Marvel fans that inhabit the MCU subreddit, what their dream projects are. And they really can't get beyond what if this handful of guys that I were in one movie together? And then any sort of story or plot or character stuff is just so secondary to just well, what if my favorite guys were in a movie together? And they just can't get beyond, and so they've managed to just take that energy and just keep it going for 20 years, and then you've all of a sudden you've populated the multiplex with a bunch of whack-ass nerds that actually hate the medium of film. They just like going into an air-conditioned room and seeing their faves for
their action figures on
2.5 hours at a time. But now they've made it so actively unpleasant that even these guys are coming up to the bar and going that fucking sucked. and there's been no replacement yet. They don't know what to do. This has been their life for 20 years.
I know, because this is what I was processing, was that the first Iron Man movie is a Bush era movie.
Yeah.
Like, this is how long this franchise has dominated the box office.
This was a preview for a Patreon only episode. So check out the show notes if you want to hear more.